Hello, and welcome to a little bit more unusual version of Widow's Wednesday. This might be called Widower's Wednesday. Susie ran off to run an errand, and she said, "Hey, look, why don't you try to do this without me?" Another step outside of my comfort zone. But this whole journey has been a step outside of my comfort zone. And, for me, this whole thing started when Susie contacted me and asked me for my perspective on losing my wife. And of course it led to a much greater thing, which is a fulfillment of prophecy in her life and mine also. But the strange thing for me, and what I really want to talk about, is what it was like from the other side. Little background information on me. I lost my wife, Diane, after 33 plus years of marriage. It happened on a November when she had suffered terrible migraines and was diagnosed in November of 2011 with brain cancer. It was a very aggressive, most aggressive type of brain cancer that there is, and there was no cure, and it took her in June of 2012, so just 6 months. For me, my story was a little bit different than Susie's because, I had a job, I had a work, I had an income, that the Lord provided for me. Of course, I mourned for, a year, and then I decided to try to date, and I know so many of you are in that position where you're thinking, okay, it's time, because none of us want to be alone. And I felt that too. But as I went through that period of time, which for me was 5 years before I met Sue, I found it to be very frustrating. Dating is extremely frustrating. And I think so much of that is because I was trying to find my own way. Here I am, after a year, I began my search. And I didn't know that there was someone on the other side praying for me, lifting me up. You heard the nickname that Sue gave me, H2, okay? How humbling is that for me to know someone out there has been praying for me. And God kept dropping little hints along the way for me. He didn't leave me clueless, but sometimes we are clueless because we don't pick up on the things that He's trying to say. So I'm getting on the computer, signing up for the Christian Mingle or Match.com. All those things that can be helpful to help you find somebody. But for me, they were like wastelands. My goodness, whoever wrote the song, and I think it was Pat Benatar, "Love is a Battlefield." It can be in the world. So I'm seeking. I don't even know what I'm seeking for. I just know I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be by myself. I believe that God has somebody for me. But at the same time, where is she? Where is she at? You meet people. So many people are filled with so much pain, so much baggage. And I don't mean to call it baggage like a negative thing, but emotionally, people are just so scarred and so hurt And they haven't, sometimes we have to go through a healing before we're able to really love and be loved. You have to be healed of what you've gone through somewhat. Sometimes, of course, the healing comes to another person. So here I am, banging away, trying to find, what God has for me next. Oh, it's just frustration after frustration after frustration. Nothing's working out for me. And I'm like, Lord, why? Why isn't anything working out for me? I mean, here I am. Here I am. I think I'm a decent human being, a decent guy, but it's just nothing seems to be working for me in that realm. And I remember a time when my wife was alive and I was in between jobs. And I couldn't find a job. I said, honey, I've got a college education. I've got all this work experience. Why don't I have a job? And my wife looked at me. I said, I can't even get an interview. The phone won't even ring. She said to me, that phone will ring when God wants it to ring. True story, not 1 second passed and that phone rang. And you know what? It was somebody wanting to interview me. So, God is amazing in His timing. What was He trying to tell me there? What was He trying to teach me? In His time, everything's going to work. It's all going to be okay. But we forget those lessons, and we try to push our way. There's nothing that's going to harm you more than trying to push your way into a relationship that you're not supposed to be in, because it's just going to cause you more pain. So I just decided to go out and just to make friends. I thought, just make friends, be social, and in doing that, God will lead me to where He wants me to be. So it's not about relationship anymore, it's just about friendship. I'm not going to seek that anymore, but just friendship. And in the course of time, it still didn't work. I still, wasn't finding, but I kept seeking. And my goodness, not knowing that God was on the other side of that, arranging things. 2 things happened to me while I was seeking. One person said to me, Bruce, if God is in the kitchen preparing a feast for you, why do you want to sit at the table and fill yourself up with the chips and salsa? Okay? That's the analogy, okay? Do we really want the chips and salsa more than we want the feast that God's prepared for us? And He is preparing it for you. The other thing, somebody just texted me randomly one day from one of these dating websites. They said, even if she's 1,000 miles away, okay, God's going to bring her to you. That was just like random from somebody I didn't even know. How prophetic is that? So, I'm back in Indiana, and nothing's working for me. Nothing is working for me socially in that regard. But Sue's over here knocking down heaven's doors. She's pounding on heaven's door saying, where is my husband? Praying for me. Guys and girls, how humbling is that? To have somebody, to know that somebody is out there praying for you, wishing on the same star that you're wishing on, okay? It's very humbling to be in this position. But don't think that it does not require some amount of courage and sacrifice on your part. I had a very content life in Indiana, Got a beautiful home. I've got a little vacation home, vacation spot, 5 grandchildren, relatives and friends that love me. Socially, I loved where I was doing, but something was missing. And that something was Sue Burroughs. And I didn't know that. And I don't think she knew that it was supposed to be me all the way from Indiana. So the courage part comes in because I almost immediately fall in love with her. And I'm sure many of you have felt the same thing towards Sue. She's articulate. She's beautiful. And more important than that, she's filled with the Spirit of God. And she wants what God wants for her life. And I encourage you to find somebody like that and don't make any compromises. Don't compromise. So, what was required of me? Was required of me to step way out of my comfort zone, which is actually what I'm doing right now too, because I'm not the type of person that feels good, in this situation, in this environment where I'm on display, like she's very comfortable with that. And she's taught me a lot because it's just about being yourself. But I had to step way out of my comfort zone and be willing to move across the country, leave everything that I know. And there are people there that are very sad that I had to leave. I have a son who I adore, who we're so close, and my daughter who's getting married next month and moving a little bit away, and my grandchildren, and just people, that your support system, now they have a void without me, and I have a little bit more of a void without them. So I move all the way across country to Massachusetts. Of course, we married, and you saw that on previous videos. So it's a leap of faith, and I'm willing to take that leap of faith because of who Sue is, because I know who she is, and because of who I know God is too in my heart. And I know that I know that I know that I'm supposed to be here. So we've been kind of looking at each other, had our discussion last night about, okay, here we are now. What's next, okay, what are we supposed to be doing now? Or, but the truth is the Lord is giving us this time to just get to know one another. And we're just being blessed. We don't really even have much of a routine yet. We've been here for a week after our fabulous honeymoon. So I wanted to share this with you. For Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future." And I just want to tell you, God has a hope and a future for you. So in that, I'll just say, God bless you. And I'm sure you're looking forward to seeing Sue next week.